What's going on, guys? Today is an exciting day because we got a brand new set of MaXpeedingRods Coilovers for the Mini Cooper that we're going to be installing. What's up, guys? So this video is special because MaXpeedingRods reached out to me and asked if I would review either their coilovers or one of their turbos. I'm not in the position right now to replace the turbo on my Civic or my Mini Cooper, so I decided to go with their coilovers. Currently on the Mini Cooper, I have blown race lands. All of the shocks are blown, leaking oil all the way around. So it rides terrible, so I needed new coilovers anyway. My original plan was to do air ride, which is still my plan eventually, I think, but this will get me by in the meantime. And I do have a friend that uses MaXpeedingRods coilovers on his BMWs, and he seems to like them, so we'll see how this goes. But as you can see right there, MaXpeedingRods. And they did give me a coupon code that I'll put in the description that'll get you 15% off. I'm not sure if it's site-wide or their coilovers. It'll get you 15% off, at least their coilovers. What's up, guys? I am on their website right now. It is March 13th. The price of these coilovers with my link is currently $375. And then you get an additional 10% off if you use my promo code EJ6Nikki in checkout. And that'll give you these coilovers for $337.50 before tax. That's insane. You guys definitely need to jump on this if you're interested in these coilovers at all. If you're one of my Honda guys, the coilovers are even cheaper with my link, which I'll put in the description for the Honda coilovers as well. And then my promo code on top of that, you can get them for $231. That's the dampening adjustable ones. If you get the non-dampening adjustment Honda coilovers, they're like $200, just over $200, which is insane. So I'll put the links to both the Mini coilovers and the Honda coilovers below, as well as my promo code. Now let's get back to the video. Just the fact that you can get a set of coilovers for less than $400 is crazy in my opinion. But I'm gonna go ahead and open this up. As you can see, this is not open, so this will be my reaction of the quality of the coilovers as I'm opening the box. Sorry if you hear my pug in the background. He's really loud. All right, so the first thing that I notice is that these coilovers come with end links, sway bar end links, adjustable ones, which is crazy. I've never had a set of coilovers come with that before. Usually you have to reuse the ones that are on there or take them off if you're going low enough and buy adjustable ones separately. So that's really cool that it comes with these. The other thing that I noticed right away is, wow. Okay, so quite a few things right away is that this is the front right here. This has an adjustable camber plate on it. The Racelands do not have an adjustable camber plate. Not only that, but you have to reuse the top mount when you're installing them. This one comes with a top mount. On top of that, two other things that I'd like to note is this is a coilover where the bottom adjusts. So basically you set your preload here, and then you adjust the height by adjusting the height of the actual body of the coilover. So no matter what height your coilovers are at, it does not change the performance of them, which is really, really nice. Wow, okay. So these also appear to have dampening adjustment, which is super nice. And then on top of that, the style of these collars is, you can see, rather than like BC coilovers, they'll be really thin collars with bumps sticking out of them that allow for adjustment. These ones are like Racelands, where they're thick right here, and normally people don't really care about that. They're not picky, but the one thing that I love about these collars is you can beat the crap out of them. If your coilovers get seized, you can stick a punch in there and hit them. I'm sure MaXpeedingRods won't appreciate me saying that, but these collars do not get chewed up, where I had to buy replacement collars for my BCs because they got really destroyed. So far, I'm very, very impressed. Chewy, are you gonna be quiet? Come on, dude. I'm trying to shoot a video. The next thing that we're going to do is take a look at what else is in the box here. We'll grab one of the rears. Same thing here. We got this body adjustment, and then the mounting bracket right here. I think this is for the brake lines. You can loosen this and turn this around so that you can get the brake lines to sit correctly. There is dampening adjustment on the top of this one too. I'm not exactly sure how to get to that on the Mini Cooper. I'm sure it's not too difficult. And then what we have left is just they give you an Allen key for this bracket down here, and then just some regular looking spanners, 2 different sizes it looks like, for the 2 different sizes of collars right here. Actually, they're both the same size, and they seem to work on both sizes of the collars. All right, let's go ahead and install these. Just trying to get the heights the same here after I install the other one. So as you can see, it's right about 24 inches in the front, in the center of the fender flare there, and then in the back we'll do the same thing up against the wheel, and it looks like it's about 24 and 1/8. Okay, we'll probably just go for 24 all around. Back here we got the same thing, actually closer to 24 1/4. And then up front, 24 and 1/8. So we'll try to get 24 and 1/8 all the way around. That sounds about right. All right, so now we're gonna install the coilovers. We're gonna start with the front here. The first thing that we gotta do is take off this wheel. Next, if you have factory suspension, these are going to be clipped in somewhere. It doesn't look like they actually reach to where they're supposed to go on the Racelands here, but normally you would unclip those. Mine are already unclipped, so we're good to go there. The next thing I'm going to do is take out this bolt right here. Actually, I was jumping the gun a little bit there. Rather than this bolt right here, what we need to do is undo the sway bar end link down here. It is a 16mm wrench with a 5mm Allen inside of it. We only need to undo the bottom there. We can take the top part out with the coilover because we are going to be replacing that piece. Okay, now that we got this out down there, we can go ahead and undo this 18mm pinch bolt right there. All right, now that that bolt's out, the next step is going to be to pull this down and pull this out. I'm gonna need 2 hands and probably a hammer. You can use a strut spreader tool back here, but I don't think I'm gonna actually need one in this case because it already did start moving just a little bit just by using 2 hands. All right. So that's out. Definitely needed a hammer for that. Just hit this side right here repeatedly with a hammer until it came out. Not too difficult. Now all we have are the 3 nuts on top holding this up. And I'm not sure exactly what size those are, but I'll let you know after I get them off. All right, we're going to go ahead and take those 3 nuts out. They are 13mm nuts. All right, so here's a little comparison between the two. This is the Raceland coilover on the left. As you can see, it's a little crusty up here. I'm pretty sure this one was starting to leak a little bit. The back ones are a lot worse. Layout wise, they're pretty much the same. You got your sway bar end link hookup right here, and then for the brake lines and stuff, you have these little tabs. That's exactly how both of these are. Raceland, I actually don't have much experience with the red ones. I've always gotten the green ones, which have very similar collars to these. These ones have plastic collars, which obviously is no good. You can't really put a lot of force on those. Coilovers like to seize up. Putting a lot of force on the plastic ones would cause them to break. Yes, they will probably be more resistant to seizing because they're plastic, which might help. I'm actually not sure, but I would rather have something with a little bit better quality. As you can see with the Raceland here, rather than having an adjustable body and the spring separate, they have a helper spring right here, which keeps this spring from flopping around. But what that means is you only have a spring this big, and with the MaXpeedingRods Coilovers, you have this big spring right here. And then obviously once you get to the top here, you can see Racelands retain the factory strut mount and bearing. MaXpeedingRods gives you a whole new strut mount with camber adjustment, and then this whole thing is dampening adjustable as well. I looked up online, it's apparently 24-way dampening adjustable, which is really good. And then the final thing is just the price point. So these ones are on sale right now for $389 on their website. I'm not sure if this is like a temporary sale or if they're just always listed as on sale. They have their full price listed at $463, and then when I look up these were $450 online right now. And if I'm going to spend $389 on these or $450 on these, I'm obviously going to go with these based on build quality alone. I actually don't know how they ride yet. I'll get to that a little bit later. Obviously, there are more expensive coilover brands, but I am always one to get cheap brands. As you know, I've run Racelands on my other cars before. I haven't really ran any other cheap brand coilovers, but if you watch the high-low series on Donut Media, you'll see that they didn't get really much performance gain out of more expensive coilovers. What you do get out of the more expensive coilovers though is better rideability, but we'll see how these perform. I have experience with BC Racing coilovers as well as KW coilovers, so we'll see how this compares to those two brands as well as the Racelands. Now I do want to mention that I'm not completely knocking Racelands. Like I mentioned, I ran these on my other vehicles. I ran them on 2 other Civics, actually 3 Civics, but 2 sets of coilovers. One of the sets, the rears did blow out and I did have to get replacements from Raceland. The other set, I ran them on 2 separate cars, plenty of miles. They never went bad. I sold the car with them. I have no idea how they're doing. But one thing to keep in mind here is with MaXpeedingRods, you get a 1-year limited warranty. With Racelands, you get a lifetime warranty. Now I've heard horror stories about people trying to get replacements of their Racelands, but I can personally say that I did have to get 2 shocks replaced, and while I did have to send them out and wait for them to send me new ones, there was no issue. It wasn't difficult. That's just the way that it was. So back to these. Let's go ahead and install them and see how they ride. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and adjust the height and the preload. So I'll adjust the preload first. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna loosen both collars here until the spring is loose. Okay, looks like that one's already loosened. Here we go, and then I'm gonna loosen this one until the spring is loose, like I said. It honestly may have already been set. So there's what you do is you have some play right here. You tighten this collar up until there's no more play in that spring. Okay? So right about there is 0 preload. We'll bring this collar up so that they're at the same right here. And now we want to add 3 to 5 millimeters of preload. To do that, we're just going to rotate this until we can fit this right in between them, which we can't yet. So we'll keep bringing this up. Not quite yet. All right, that's going to be the 3 to 5 millimeters of preload. So I'll go ahead and tighten this guy down. Okay, so now that those are tight, we can set our height. The height is done by loosening the bottom here, like that. And I'm just gonna match the height with the Raceland, because that is the height that I want. So to do that, we're gonna match this indent right here to this one right here on the Raceland, which is about right there. And then make the top hats line up. So this needs to come down a little bit. I'll do a few turns. We'll try that. pretty close. Go a little bit more. Now, the other thing here is this is loose, so this actually might be a little bit high. They're pretty close. This one I think is gonna compress more than this one will, so I'm gonna actually move this up one like that, and this is where I'm gonna go with this. For the other front, I'm gonna match it with this side. Okay, so this one's set, ready to go in the car. I'm gonna grab the other front and I'm gonna match it to this one. One of the other things that we're gonna do here is set our dampening. I'm gonna put it in half. So if it's 24-way adjustable, I'll actually confirm that really quick. Okay, so the problem here is that this one spins non-stop in both directions. If I push down on it and turn it to the left, it kind of stops eventually. But either way, I think there's something wrong with the dampening adjustment on this one. I have had other coilovers and they usually stop spinning in one direction or stop spinning in the other. These aren't like that. That's very strange to me, but we'll see exactly how they work out. I'm gonna try this other one right here and see if it does the same thing. Okay, so I've confirmed that the dampening adjustment works on this one. It'll stop on both sides. That one, it's not working on, that one down there. So this one's obviously broken. I'll reach out to them and see if they'll give me a replacement. But I'm gonna go ahead and continue installing these anyway. Hopefully it doesn't affect the performance too much for my review. So another thing that I forgot that I wanted to do is spray them with this bow shield. And this is what I like to spray my coilovers with. It's kind of like an anti-seize, and you just spray the threads. I went ahead and took the spring and the purchase and everything off of this front shock here. I'm gonna do this with all of them, but I'm just gonna show you the one here. I'm going to wipe off whatever coating was on here previously. As you can see, there's a little bit of something on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and spray this. This is because I live in Michigan. We have a really big problem with corrosion on our coilovers and things like that. You basically install a set of coilovers. If you don't do something like this, you'll never be able to loosen it. Now you're supposed to let that dry before assembling it, so I'm just going to let it sit for a little bit, but usually it doesn't dry for a really long time, so I'm not going to wait for it completely, but that should be good. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of them off camera. Okay, so the fronts are now sprayed with this bow shield. The rears are too. The rears are not assembled yet. The fronts are assembled, set to the same height, and then I set the one to 12 for the adjustable dampening, so right in the middle. The other one, I spun it all the way to the left, pushing down until it stopped, and then spun it 12 to the right. That one, like I said, is broken. Hopefully that's still the correct dampening adjustment. I went ahead and took these apart and put anti-seize on the threads so that these don't seize up. The new nut size for these is 17 millimeter instead of 16, but the Allen is still 5 millimeters. So I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this on. We'll adjust the length of it once we get it on the car. So this is in. One thing that's a little bit sad is you can't adjust the camber with this in unless you cut the strut top, which I will do. I'm just not going to do that right now. I don't have enough time for it. So what I did was I tried to get this centered. The camber adjustment is set the same on both sides. I'm trying to get this centered because there is a little bit of camber adjustment with these bolts right here as well. So I'm just going to get it centered on both sides. But one thing that I figured out was the previous owner, looking at this, I believe the previous owner actually installed the coilover on the wrong side. I think this one should be on the other side, so that way this brake cable can hook up to this on this side, and then this little thing can hook up to this guy right here on the front. So these need to be switched around. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this back out and put the other coilover on this side. However, before I do that, I'm actually going to take this strut out so that way I can get the sway bar height situated on this side. It'll just be a little bit easier. I'm gonna just get this one out. gone ahead and thrown the other coilover in with the other sway bar end link. I was wrong. This is the correct coilover for this side. The brake line does reach. We're gonna go ahead and put a jack underneath this to bolt it back up, to lift it up into place so we can put the pinch bolt back through and bolt it together. I tried doing it in the air and I was unable to, so we're gonna do it this way. Okay, so the problem that I ran into is that once this is all the way installed in the steering knuckle here, right here, installed properly, this hole is still up just a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch. And to verify that, I took it back out, set it side by side with the raceland. You can see where the racelands were installed. You can see that the knuckle was all the way up here at the top of the hook here, and we measured down and then measured down on this one as well, and they are a little bit different.
Right there you can see it's about approximately 1.25 inches
to the bottom of the bottom of the hook.
Bottom of the hook. And here it's about 1.1/16 inches. So almost a full 1/4 inch difference.
Right. So this one's not going to fit. So what we need to do, we've just decided that we're just going to cut off the bottom of this hook. Looking in here, the way that this works and the pinch bolt going in there, it will hold on to the coilover. It's not going to come out without that hook. I don't like the fact that I have to cut this off. This definitely shouldn't be a thing. We'll see if it's the same way on the other side. If it is, I'm definitely going to be reaching out to Max Speeding Rods. I have to do that anyway for the broken dampening control on one of these. So we'll see what we're gonna do, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut the bottom of that off, and then we're still gonna continue with the installation. All right, so we cut the bottom of that tab off, just a little bit of it. So now I'll show you that this thing fits. There. So now that goes all the way in, and then we can fit this bolt through without any issues. So we can go ahead and tighten that up now. But before I tighten that up, I'm actually gonna lift this whole thing up and bolt it in up top. So we're having the same problem on this side. As you can see, it is in all the way as far as it can go. And if you look in there, it is not all the way down. So a little bit of that tab has to come off in order for this to fit. I'm going to go ahead and mark it. It looks like it's less. It looks like this side fits better than the other side did. But I got some anti-seize on here, and this is going to mark the coilover so we can see how much we need to cut off to get it to fit. Alright, so we have both sides in now. On the other side, we only had to grind a little bit off of that tab. As you could see in the last video, there was some space in between here, the knuckle and the coilover, so we only had to grind a little bit off to get that side to fit. This side, we had to cut the tab off completely. I'll be reaching out to MaXpeedingRods and see if they'll send me a new bottom. This is also the coilover where the dampening is broken, so maybe they'll just send me a whole new corner right here. But we went ahead and got the height here adjusted for the sway bar end links. That puts the sway bar right there. You can see it's a couple inches above the top of here where it was actually touching before with the other coilovers. This is really all you have to do is just adjust it so that this is sitting in a place where it's not hitting the axle, not hitting the control arm, things like that. So I think I got it in a pretty good place right now. To get this set up, we put load under both sides of the front to get the coilovers to sit where they were originally going to, or where they're going to in the end, and then adjust the length of this side, bolted it in tight, and then went ahead and adjusted the length of the other side as well. So these should be good now. So now we're just gonna go ahead and move on to the back of the car. All right, if you take a look back here, you can see these ones are the real reason that I needed new coilovers. I'm pretty sure the other side is the exact same way. But to get these out, all we have is that nut right there, or that bolt. There's another one right there. And then down here, there's one right there. And then there's these brake lines, but they just slide out, just like the fronts did. Gonna need two hands for it though. So those two slide out, that there, and then those two up there. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on that. All right, I mentioned that the MaXpeedingRods Coilovers didn't need top hats, but that was only for the front. The rears, you do need to swap over the OEM top hats. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on that now. They appear to be held on with a 17mm nut. I don't know if that's the same from the factory. It's probably not, but these ones that are on the Raceland are using a 17mm. Okay, so we went ahead and assembled the coilover on that side and got it all installed. Everything's good to go. One thing to make note of is we did have to flip these brackets around. They were on the other way, and this one doesn't fit through if they're on that way, so no big deal. We just loosened them up and flipped this piece around, and now I'm gonna go ahead and install that one in this side. Alright guys, so it's quite a while later now. As I mentioned in the video, I had some fitment issues with the front, with the lower mounts, with the pinch bolt going through. Just that little bracket on the back seemed to be up a little bit too high. And then I also had one of the dampening knobs not working for me on the front left coilover. So I reached out to MaXpeedingRods and they sent me new dampening knobs, well, a new dampening knob and a spare. And then they had me send them some measurements off of my old coilovers, and they custom made me new lower mounts. So these did take a little while for me to get, and in the meantime, I've been running the other ones. They're still in there, as you can see. Just made sure the pinch bolt was extra tight so I didn't have any problems. But we're gonna go ahead and pull the fronts back out and put these new lowers on and see how they fit. So this right here is exactly why running this with the cut piece on the back here with the bottom of this tab cut off is dangerous. That is because all I did was loosen this bolt a little bit and the whole thing, I just pushed on it lightly and the whole thing just fell right down. So super important that if you do make something like this fit, don't cut this off all the way. Just maybe grind it down a tiny bit or cut this right here and weld it down a little further. That's if you're modifying it. If you have this same problem that I'm having, MaXpeedingRods directly told me to have you guys reach out to them. So I'm gonna try to find out some more information myself and see if anybody else has had this problem so I can send that information to them. They might have to change their design to match the measurements that I sent them. There is one other video on YouTube I know of that somebody installed these, and you can't really tell in his video if he had trouble with this. So I'm probably gonna reach out and maybe reach out to other people. If you have bought these coilovers and you have this fitment issue, please leave a comment in my video so we can get this taken care of. So another thing that I wanna mention is I've had these on here since October. Right now it's February, so 5 months or so. This car didn't really get driven too much this winter, but it has gotten driven in the salt a little bit. And one thing that I can say that I've never experienced before is look how easy this is to turn still. And that is because of this stuff. So make sure if you're putting coilovers in your car, rather than putting anti-seize and something that can gum up and get a bunch of dirt and junk stuck in it, use this. This is a Bow Shield T9. I'll put a link to this into the description. Yeah, man, this stuff obviously works great, better than any other kind of anti-seize I've ever used on coilovers. And I recommend it. The other thing that you can do is put a coilover boot on, which is what I've done on the FRS. And I haven't checked those, so I don't know how that's worked, but I know that this works, obviously. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off and swap it out with the other one, but first I'm gonna make sure the other one fits down here the way that it's supposed to, so I need to get this bolt out the rest of the way. Okay, so here's the one of the new ones. This is actually the wrong side, so I'll put the other one back in, but I had the same kind of issue with both of them. Not really an issue. They fit. It's just close. It's just a really tight fit. So if we shove this in here, that's all the way in right now. Okay, so here's obviously the one that came on there. Here's the new one. It's got a little bit of an angle to these brake line parts, but I think that's probably perfectly fine. Everything else is the exact same, and the bolt does fit. So if we slide the bolt in there, it doesn't go straight in, but if you push down on this and thread it, it's a tight fit, like I said, but if we throw the gun on here, obviously you can see that it now fits. Once it's past the threads, it fits pretty good. So I would go ahead and say that these measurements are correct. I will go ahead and put them in a description, or actually I'll show them to you in this video because you need to know their A, B, and C measurements that they're looking for and what I provided to them. This back clip could maybe still go down, maybe 1 millimeter, but I'll leave that up to MaXpeedingRods. I'll let them know that it is a tight fit, but that it does fit and no trimming was required, which is really good. I'm gonna go ahead and unthread this, thread this one on, and then just go ahead and install everything. All right, so here's the one that I took off. Here's the one that I'm putting on. As you can see, they are a little bit different there, but if we get these holes to line up right there, here we go, line up that hole right there. Well, I mean, obviously it's lined up like that, but I'm just gonna put it past a little bit so you can kind of get a better idea here. So that hook on the right is higher up than the one on the left. Like I said, I will give the measurements for this piece. Obviously, if this is an issue with their design, then they're gonna have to go back and make these measurements their design for the R56 Mini Cooper. So just let me know, guys, if you buy these coilovers and you have this problem, let me know and reach out to them and let them know. They will give you the correct size. You can make these ones fit by grinding down the bottom of that hook. Don't grind it all the way off like I did, or cutting this and welding it down a little bit further. But they really do need to know if their design is off. So I'm gonna go ahead and install these on both sides now. Okay, so this is fully installed now. Everything's tightened down. My only complaint is that with this thing on an angle now instead of straight up and down like it was on the old one, this no longer reaches. It would reach, it's so close. It would reach if I unbolted that and then put it in there and then stuck it back in, but I don't really feel like doing that and it's not gonna go anywhere. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. And we're gonna go ahead and move on to the other side now and get that one installed. Okay, so here's what they gave me for the knobs, and it looks like, so they gave me these two pieces. This one is that, and it's got a hex on the top, and then the knob itself. And the way the knob works is it just twists, and I don't know if you're gonna be able to see, but the whole thing twists. So essentially the clicking is built into this middle piece right here, which allows this to turn, which I think turns this and just tightens and loosens this, which it can only go so tight and so loose, which means the piece that's in there is either stripped or the shock itself is broken. So I'm gonna go ahead and see what happens when I take this knob out and see if I can figure out what's going on here. I installed the replacement adjustment knob here. This is the new one, and tightened it down. To install this, I actually had to use one of these guys that came with one of my paint guns because it's really low profile and it has an 8mm wrench on it that could fit in there because the other one wouldn't. But now that this is installed, as you can see, if I tighten it, eventually it stops clicking. The only thing that I noticed is now there's 32-way adjustability, 32 settings instead of 24 like there are on that side. And I think that that's probably just the amount that the knob turns per click. So I have another knob here that they sent me right here, and I'm gonna install this on that side just so they both have 32 settings. Now, here's the old knob that was in there, and here's the new one. As you can see, this piece right here is really short, and I think what may have been happening is that it was screwing in all the way, and then this was spinning in place, and it was just stuck all the way with the dampening all the way up. So this one you can see is a lot longer, so it can travel further down, which will allow it to reach its maximum dampening setting. This one on this side, I took it out and it matches this one exactly. So I'm not sure why this dampening knob didn't work in here, but regardless, it works now. I'm gonna go ahead and swap out that one so the same on both sides and we'll be good to go. And then I'll do a little review while I'm driving. I have driven on these quite a bit, but we'll go ahead and skip to a review of me driving. All right guys, so we're about to go for a ride in this so I can give a review of the coilovers, but first I wanted to show you how it sits. So I have my heights dialed in here. Ignore how dirty this is. It's still really cold outside. It's like freezing temperatures still, and the closest quarter wash is pretty far, so I don't get to wash my car that often in the winter. The outside water at my house here is shut off. In the back, I actually have it about as low as it'll go. I took out one of the collars, so the preload is still set, but the height adjustment collar is taken out, and then the bottom mount of the coilover is butted up to the collars that set the preload. So it is as low as it can go in the back there. You could maybe take out one more collar, but that's about it. In the front, I got about another inch of adjustment. So this is actually sitting almost exactly where it sat before. It does rub in the back a little bit because I need to cut out behind that arch a little bit. The previous owner never did. They just took the stock flares off, so all the metal's still underneath there. But overall, I'm really happy with the way it sits. Obviously, if you are trying to go lower than this, then you might need to find a different solution. All right, guys. I promise I didn't do this on purpose, but I do realize that I matched the car very well today with my purple hair and my purple shirt. So we're gonna go ahead and review these coilovers. I pulled over. I found a road that I think is a little bit twisty, so we'll see. I've never driven over here, so I don't know how bumpy it's going to be. This is Michigan, and also I do have some clunking in the back due to my sway bar end links back there, so you might hear some of that. But we're just gonna go ahead and cruise down this road and see what we find. So I've actually been driving on these coilovers for quite a little while. I can tell you right now that they ride way better than the Racelands do. There's almost no bouncing to them. So like when you hit a bump, you're not like boom, you know, like you are with Racelands. But one thing that I can say is that these coilovers are a lot softer than the Racelands and my BC coils. I think these are 6K springs, so there's a lot more movement. So if you're really fender to lip with your wheels, you're gonna want either different springs or different coilovers in general. So honestly, I would compare these more to my BC Racing coilovers than my Racelands, ride-wise, which is crazy to say based on the price alone. My BC Racing coilovers are the bottom end that BC offers, so it makes sense that these would compete with those. Other higher end BCs might ride a little bit better. These don't ride as good as some of the more high end coilovers that I've driven on. Let's see if we go around this turn. I need some good sharp turns. Sign. last one. We got a couple twisties here. Honestly, this thing handles great. I really don't have any complaints about these coilovers. Like, for the price, they ride amazing. You get good performance, you get a nice ride, and you get low. So, I mean, I will probably be using these for my cheap coilovers from now on, unless I want to be like super duper slammed. I think where we're at right here is just perfectly fine, honestly. So yeah, once again, if you're looking for coilovers, I definitely recommend these. If you get them for a Mini Cooper and you have trouble with fitment issues, let me know. I reached out to the other guy who recorded a video on it. He hasn't gotten back to me, so I don't know. I have a link in my description that'll get you 15% off site-wide. I'll also put a link to the other stuff used in this video. If you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and have a good day. Peace out.